Okay. What is up, everybody? It's me, Ray, the artist behind Shreddinkk, and I figured this morning I would go ahead and show you this project that I believe I'm about to finalize. It is actually a commission for a local brewery called Mad Hatchet in Shorewood, Illinois. And what the idea that they brought to me was a beer label that was called Cinnister Stout. And as you could see, they separated the words, or they combined the words cinnamon and sinister to their name. And so what they requested was for me to create a cinnamon roll or something involving a cinnamon roll. That for at least this illustration project, they gave me full free reign. And some of the first ideas that came to my mind were something that I've actually been working on my own time, which is dealing with a lot of eyes and stuff that is with the fractal realm. And the first idea that I thought would be like a cool cinnamon roll bun, and having the icing or just the pastry itself become like an infinite loop, as if time doesn't exist, like those fractal artworks. But yeah, this is going to be a stout, which for those that don't know what that is a beer that is more on the sweet, dark, roasted, more like a coffee type of beer. It's not like a Bud Light or a Blue Moon. It's a lot more of it's a lot stronger, I would assume too. These beers could be a lot more stronger in the percentage. But me personally, I have not tried it yet. I'm probably going to try it out very soon, probably before they release it. But for now, I just wanted to go ahead and show you the process of how I did this. It's this program that I'm using called Apple Procreate has a cool feature where you're able to record everything and it just records the entire process. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys what I did to create that illustration. And as you can see here, when it comes to ideas that are requested, it's really fun to freestyle it and just be really rough with the beginning stages, definitely using a lot of references and a lot of stuff to motivate the ideal of what something looks like and transforming it into an illustration. And as you can see there, I've actually did my first sketch, and then this is the second sketch, just revising it. I can see there, I grabbed the Cinnabon label. I'll go back because it's going pretty fast. There's a Cinnabon logo, and they wanted me to incorporate that aesthetic to this design. That's why there's like a lot of blues, a lot of whimsical stuff. But I took their logo, put it on top of my drawing to kind of get a better aesthetic ideal of what would be appropriate for that company, or at least that aesthetic of that brand. And as you can see here, this is when I first was coming about how the entire sketch would look in the beginning. And as a beer label, it could be, there's so many different styles of going about it. For me, I figured the text on above and below would be the most appropriate and the easiest balanced without having to add so much stuff. As you can see there, I was even thinking about adding like a border, some kind of border to make it defined. But as you can see now I'm actually going and re-sketching the entire illustration again. I do this about, I would say 3 to 5 times, sometimes 5. The goal is to refine the sketch enough to where I can say I'm confident, and I know I'm confident to go in with the ink pen. Because once the ink pen is in, that's when you feel the color, and then once you're finalized with all that, that's when it's done for printing. And once it's gone for printing, you can't really go and readjust something. I guess sometimes you can, but I rather really take my time on this stuff and just explore different options. For example, here I started changing the letter of the text letter in the font, making it a lot more whimsical, or I would say not whimsical, but just a little closer towards this aesthetic of something evil and sinister. This brewery that I'm doing this label for is their brewery is all inspired by horror theme, and if you go there, they have nothing but just cool illustrations and just depictions of old horror films like, you know, Michael Myers, Freddy Krueger, Jason, Frankenstein. All those characters are there. It's a really nice bar. And so for that being said, I was trying to push that same aesthetic of something dark and spooky, you know? I guess that's the best way to put it. And as you can see there, finishing the sketch, I believe I went ahead and threw in some color behind it. And this really was where I was getting a more confident approach to how this was looking. In the beginning stages, it was definitely still needed a lot of work, but now it's starting to construct and form. And instead of it being like how this camera is like right above, I was thinking of it more to being like on its side, you know, kind of how this candle would be like, but on its side. So let's see. And I think, yeah, that's it for at least one layer. This is the sketch, and now I'm gonna go ahead and show you the final, how I finalized it all. And then, funny story, before I actually I need to go back. There was a part in where I was doing this process of illustrating, which basically I'm just missing the part where I showed you how I did the text. I don't think it's on here, but I'm just gonna skip that for the sake of time. Let's just go back to this one. And long story short, I was showing a friend of mine this illustration, and in the midst of showing him, I guess out of the excitedness or the clumsiness, I accidentally basically lost the final sketch. And it was on just a blank screen, and there was no way I could undo it. And I was just really I was hanging out with a friend at the moment, so I was really trying to keep my cool because I was about, I think, 6 hours into this illustration. So what I had to do to resolve the problem was, as you could see this illustration I'm sketching, I had to go to the time-lapse replay, go to the specific spot where I was able to screenshot it, and then from there I had to just redraw it again because it was all pixelated, and which is okay, which goes along the idea of what I was saying. It's sometimes better to really refine your sketch before you go into inking it. And so here's the final sketch. This is the final sketch, I believe, before I went in with the ink. The same thing with the letters. You can see that there's a lot of imperfections, so the goal is to really define those shapes, make it more eligible. And then, funny fact, I don't know if you guys noticed, there's a mistake here in the lettering. Let's see if you guys can notice it. You'll probably notice it when I go back to the final image. I was kind of thought it was funny because I really thought I did the letter pretty good. I thought it was a pretty good letter, but oh, there it is. I changed it right there. That's funny. And let's see. I believe this is the inking. This is where I started doing the ink process. Like I said, once you go about the inking, then you're able to start doing the coloring. It makes it a lot easier to fill in the colors. I'm pretty sure there's another way to go about it if you're doing like pencil sketching illustrations, but me personally, I like to use the Studio Pen with my Apple Pencil, and that allows a more, what's the best way? A clean outline, yeah, with the brush. And I think from here on, this is where all the finaling touches start. So I'm just gonna let this play for a few moments. The goal for me was to make sure everything was on a separate layer, or at least in a very organized manner for the layers, because it's very easy to sometimes mix up certain parts, and where you need to go and edit it, or if you have to, it's a lot more easier and efficient, instead of having to, select one area and then hope you don't have one other part selected. And it's like kind of like a puzzle. You just gotta know how to play the puzzle correctly, or use the puzzle pieces correctly. Otherwise, it's just a lot of back and forth trying to figure out a better strategy of allowing yourself to make this work better. But I'm gonna zoom in because, as you can see, it's just a lot of little details that I'm doing. Very minuscule. The goal with these illustrations is to get the biggest parts down first, and then worry about all the little intricate lines and things that create value and depth and texture and separation of things. The biggest challenge for me for this was separating the icing from the pastry, if that makes sense. As you can see there, just throwing in color just to get an idea. And then the cool little thing there that I did, it was like a splash of the background. There we go. And this is really cool because it kind of pushes more towards what I was thinking of, like a whirlpool, or like something that just pulls you in. And still in this, at least for the main part, the illustration is there, but for the background, I would still consider it to be in the rough sketch area. Yeah, I'm not sure if you can see, but it's just a lot of little, just back and forth. I'm gonna use my pencil now to point out stuff. It's a very meditative thing. This is something where I don't just do this all in one take. I literally probably put 2 hours in every time, not 3. Even if it's 30 minutes, it doesn't hurt. The goal is to not get frustrated and overwork an area, because it'll start to show. For me, that's allowing it to just balance out itself through time and patience. And thankfully for this commission, I came across a lot of time. They gave me a lot of time I've had before they had to go about their brewing and printing, which hopefully I can show you the process of how they do it. They actually invited me to stop at their brewery. Hopefully it's still soon. I'm not sure if they already did it or not, but they wanted me to check out how they brew it and have a little sample and just pull a couple levers. I guess show me the steps of brewing beer, which I personally love beer, so I think that would be really fun. Okay, so before I skip something important, from here I had the final illustration, and now it was just primarily choosing the color scheme for the text and the pastry, which I'm still revising at this moment. But basically the illustration is done. But the background is something that I was working on last night, and it was really a challenge to create something that wasn't over killing the illustration, or that was that just didn't work, you know, trying to find something that would be cool. And what I came across was I used the pencil to create this weird shape, and I don't recall exactly how I did it, but I used one of the new features on the Apple Procreate to like distort stuff. And from there, I think I even went and used the liquefy tool. But before I used the liquefy, there we go. It's hard to really describe because these new features that they added, I really don't know how to describe them too clearly as I'm working. But the intention I wanted to illustrate behind this main part was like a moon, or like a mystical ball or sphere that kind of resembles a cinnamon roll, and give it that hollow, creepy aesthetic, you know. And those colors that I use are the same color palettes from the actual Cinnabon website. And this is the final illustration from where I'm at the moment. As you can see, I added outlines to the text, and I've also added a little bit of blingage to create, there we go. Yeah, so this is the final image. I'm going to go ahead and do this so you guys can see a better view. There we go. Okay. So yeah, that's the final image of right now. I'm still working on the colors, I guess, of going back and forth, what looks appropriate, so when it does go to printing, nothing is too dull or oversaturated, or at least a spot might be missing. As you can see right here, yeah, I still have to do the outlines. Just little areas right there that I just gotta go in and revise. But primarily this is it. And I came across the last finishing touches was like this brush that was called like cookies or something. which so I thought it was perfect because this is a pastry illustration, and I just went around the entire text and the cinnamon roll to create an outline. But to me, this basically looks like icing. You know, I think that looks like icing. So I think it works really nice. Otherwise than that, this is the final illustration, and it's just a lot of back and forth to find the final outcome. So when it goes to printing, it could look really good, and you know, can't wait to try this beer out. It's gonna be on one of these tall bottles. You know, I should do a video on the last beer label I did with them. It was a milkshake IPA. I don't think I have it on here, but that one was really fun, although it was more of a challenge, which I could definitely do another video about how I went about that illustration. But until then, guys, thank you for tuning in, and I'll catch you in the next video. Much love and peace.